New York Giants general manager Joe Schoen said multiple times on Tuesday during his bye week press conference that he feels like the Giants are not far off from being a good football team. What exactly does that mean? Let's take a look at that question today on this edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right. So Joe Schoen in his annual bye-week press conference, one of the few times during the year that he's available to media, as I said at the top, said multiple times that he thinks the Giants are not far off from being a good football team. Said that he does think that the team is capable of a significant leap in 2025. And Shane talked about a lot of things. He talked about the nucleus of the roster. He talked about Daniel Jones. He talked about Brian Daboll. He talked about the 2024 draft class. He talked about some of the hits and misses in his first two draft classes. And here's what it all comes down to. I think at the core of everything, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are selling the idea to management, to the fan base, to everyone. They are selling the idea that they believe that with the core of the roster that they've begun to put in place, and the fact that a lot of these players are under contract for 2025 and in many cases beyond. Shane and Dable believe that the Giants can make a Houston Texans like or Washington Commanders like leap if they get the right quarterback in place in 2025. Obviously, we'll get into whether or not they'll be able to do that. And, drafting a young quarterback, of course, is never a guarantee of anything. But, those are which quarterback that's going to be and whether they're going to be able to get their guy, whether it's Cam Ward or Jalen Milroe or Shadur Sanders or whoever it might be. Those are all conversations for another day. But really what I want to focus on is what Shane said on Tuesday when he spoke to reporters for between 25 and 30 minutes at Quest Diagnostics Training Center. Shane did not throw Daniel Jones under the bus. Asked about Daniel Jones, he said that it's not just on the quarterback. He spoke a lot about the Giants' red zone failures, about their failures to take advantage of opportunities. He talked a lot about the fact that they're 1-5 in one-score games. And really, the NFL is a one-score game league. You have to win one-score games to be good. The Kansas City Chiefs are making a living this year winning one-score games. Giants are 1-5 in one-score games, 1-6 in games that are decided late. When you add the 10-point loss to the Cincinnati Bengals to that mix. The biggest issue in all of that, the biggest thing to point to, excuse me, is the fact that the Giants are last in the league in red zone offense. They're last in the league in touchdown percentage when they get into the red zone. That's been a huge issue the last 2 weeks for the Giants with a pair of turnovers in the red zone or close to the red zone. Sunday against Carolina, a couple of turnovers the week before as well against the Commanders. Not being able to score touchdowns has been a huge issue for the Giants this year, not scoring enough points, 15.5 points a game, 15.6 to be precise, last in the league. And quarterback play is a huge part of that. as we've discussed at Big Blue View and as I wrote the other day. But Shane said that everybody has a hand in it, and he's correct in that assessment that everybody has a hand in it. There have been times when the receivers have let the quarterback down. There have been times when special teams has given up big plays, or times when the Giants have missed field goals that needed to be made. There have been times like last week against the Panthers, or 2 weeks ago, probably for the most part 2 weeks ago, when the defense wasn't good enough. But and it's been one of the constants all year has been the fact that the Giants have been the worst run defense in football. So there are issues on defense. The biggest one, of course, remains quarterback. But Shane, as I said, he wouldn't throw Daniel Jones under the bus. What he did say was, of course, he was asked about, whether Jones would be the quarterback, when the Giants come back from their bye week 12 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he didn't really answer that question one way or another. He was asked, what the decision would be based on. And he said it would be a football decision and not a financial one. Now, of course, we know Daniel Jones has no guaranteed money left in his contract for 2025, unless, of course, he's on the Giants roster on the first day of the league season, and if he cannot pass a physical. If he can't pass a physical, if he suffers an injury, can't pass a physical, the Giants are on the hook for $23 million. We know that the Giants are not going to want to be on the hook for $23 million. And we know that any decision that the Giants make to bench Daniel Jones will in part have something to do with that injury guarantee. But by framing it as a football decision, what Joe Schoen and by extension Brian Daboll can do is sell to the locker room that they are still trying to win games, that they have not given up on 2024, that they haven't completely turned the page to next season. And that's important for a regime that wants to stay in place, for a regime that's under fire because the last 2 seasons haven't been good. They can say, look, Daniel Jones is 3-13 over the last 2 seasons. He hasn't had a multiple touchdown game in forever, or a 3 touchdown passing game in forever. The Giants haven't scored 30 points in a game all season. They're the worst offense and the worst red zone offense in the league. And our study indicates, they're talking about needing to evaluate this week during the bye. They can say, look, there aren't a whole lot of other changes that we can make. We think better quarterback play will lead us to better offense, which could and should lead us to more victories. And that's how you sell it to the locker room. Even though Brian Daboll said earlier in the season a number of times that Jones gives them the best chance to win, you look at that and say, at this point, we don't think that's the case anymore. And we're going to go with Drew Lock, or we're going to go with Tommy DeVito. But that's how they're framing it. And I think that's the right thing for them to do, even though we all know that it has something to do with the injury guarantee, with the fact that Jones will almost certainly not be a Giant next year. And that the Giants simply have to protect themselves from owing him that money next year so that they can spend that money on improving their 2025 football team. Shane was very, very adamant that there is a young core in place, not only of first and second year players, but of players who are young veterans like Dexter Lawrence, like Brian Burns, who can be leaders on this football team. I think he said that 19 of 2020 of the 22 starters are under contract for next year. I think he said 41 of the players on the current 53-man roster are under contract for next year. He's he's selling the idea, and I don't blame him for this, and I think he has a point. He's selling the idea that there's a good core here, that continuity will help this team. That is something that honestly has to appeal to John Mara as he looks ahead and tries to decide whether or not Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll should get to continue with this building process, into 2025. They have laid a lot of groundwork. They have added a lot of good young talent. The 2024 draft class, Malik Neighbors, Tyler Nubin, Drew Phillips, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, all quality starting players. That's 5 quality players in one draft class, including a guy who could and should be a star wide receiver in this league for several years in Malik Neighbors. That is an outstanding draft class, and Joe Schoen deserves credit for that. Um, he was also asked about some of the criticisms of his first 2 draft classes. And Jerry Reese used to say you don't bat 1,000 in personnel. Every general manager admits that, and Schoen admitted that there have been mistakes over his first couple of years, that there have been things that haven't gone right. Didn't want to detail what those are, of course, but he did say that there have been things over his first, couple of off seasons as GM, that maybe he wishes he had done differently, but all you can do now if you're Joe Schoen is try to look forward, try to hope that John Mara and Steve Tisch continue to give Schoen and Daboll the opportunity to go forward. I'm actually taking a second here to just scroll through the takeaways post that I did on Shane's press conference at Big Blue View to see if there's anything else that I really want to get into. Really, I think that's pretty much it. Shane trying to remain optimistic that better times are ahead. Obviously, as Brian Daboll has done, acknowledged that 2-8 is not good enough, that's not where they want to be. I thought he did a really good job on Tuesday of outlining where they want to go and what he sees for the future if the Giants can get that quarterback. I thought he did that very well without throwing Daniel Jones completely under the bus, without saying, that this was all on the quarterback and that better quarterback play is the solution to everything. And look, we've even acknowledged at Big Blue View that better quarterback play is a big part of it. The Giants need more on the defensive line. They need more in the secondary. They probably need to add some youth to the offensive line, which has been solid this year, but that outside of second-year center John Michael Schmitz doesn't really have any young up-and-coming talent, and that's a glaring issue for the Giants going forward. But really, that's pretty much my summary, my take on what Joe Schoen had to say. The only question going forward when Schoen, sort of opens that door and says we think that we can make that leap, and his indication, everything that he said, obviously, as I've said, makes it seem like they feel they can make a leap if they get better quarterback play. Obviously, we know right now the Giants have the number 2 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft if it were held today, We don't know that they're going to have the number 2 pick or the number 1 pick or the number 10 pick or the number 12 pick. Who knows? By the time the final 7 games of the season are played, who knows how that's going to shake out? Who knows if they're going to look at the draft class and think, Cam Ward's our answer. Jalen Milroe is our answer. We're going to go all in to make sure we get one of those guys. Maybe Jackson Dart's the answer. I don't know how it's all going to shake out when we finally get to draft day. But maybe they look at the class and think the answer's not there, or we're not in position to get the one guy or one of the 2 guys who we think is the answer. Just like last year, I think the Giants felt that they could make that leap this year if they could have gotten Jaden Daniels, who went number 2 to Washington and was never in play for the Giants because he was never going to get past the Commanders, or Drake May, who they really tried to trade up for with the New England Patriots, who had the number 3 overall pick. Patriots, of course, decided to stick and pick. And I think to this point, they have to be very, very happy with what they've seen from Drake May in a small sample size. But, the Giants were left in a situation where they didn't think the remaining quarterbacks, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, were the guys that they wanted leading their team with Brian Daboll's offense. And right now, Bo Nix looks like a good player. We don't know about J.J. McCarthy because he's hurt. We don't know about Michael Penix because he's backing up Kirk Cousins and not getting to play. Maybe that's going to happen again in 2025 in the draft. And in that case, the Giants will be in the bridge quarterback placeholder situation, still trying to solve the issue long term. But in which case, they'll just continue to try to build out the roster, continue to try to add pieces to the foundation, and continue to look for the opportunity to get the quarterback they think can help them make that leap. Hopefully, hopefully they'll be able to get their hands on that guy in the upcoming draft. We'll see how it goes, but really that is my big takeaway from today's Joe Schoen press conference, is that he believes that the roster is better than a 2-8 team currently. And he believes that the Giants, with the young foundation that's in place, could take a big step forward in 2025 if they can get their CJ Stroud, if they can get their Jaden Daniels, if they can get their Drake May to carry them forward. And we'll see how that goes. Anyway, Giants fans, thank you as always. Please continue to support the channel here. Please continue to read all of our work at Big Blue View, and to to comment, to join the community with other Giants fans who love to discuss the team, whether they're doing well or poorly or whatever. So if you haven't joined the community, please do. Anyway, thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.